ॐ दक्षिणस्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्ण पाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितैयदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Now, we have already seen that after the Shanti Patam, we saw that the Guru Shishya Samvada in the Kaivalya Upanishad has already started. And Atharvana Veda Upanishad, this Kaivalya Upanishad, started with the Shanti Pata, Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunayama Devaha. Now, who is the Shishya here? As I already explained, the Shishya is a Varishta Shishya, a very, very well-known, famous Shishya, a scholarly Shishya, a Shishya who is a Rigveda Guru, Rigveda Acharya he is. That means he is the teacher, he is the one who is able to teach the Shishyas about the Rigveda mantras. Such exalted Shishya goes to whom? A Guru who cannot be less exalted than him. A Guru who is Parameshti Brahma. Brahma, not Brahman, Brahma. Brahma is also the Chaturmukha Brahma, the very, very creator of this universe. Vishwasya Karta Bhuvanasya Bhokta. We saw that in Mundaka Upanishad. Who is this Brahma, Lord Brahma? Vishwasya Karta, the one who is the very creator of this universe. Bhuvanasya Gopta, the one who protects this universe. So such a exalted Guru, who is the repository of all the four Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvana Veda repository, this particular person now, who is Brahma, Brahmaji we call him, to give that respect to that exalted living being, Lord Brahma. Here he is addressed as Parameshthi. Parameshthi means the one who is the first one who would have come to create the universe. So Ashvalayanaha Bhagavantam Parameshtinam Upasametya Uvacha. We saw that the first sentence of the Upanishad, where the Upanishad is introducing the Shishya and the Guru. So the Upanishad says, this Ashvalayana Rishi approached Parameshti Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma, Lord Brahma, Vidhivat, the way he had to approach him, he approached. And I also said in the previous session, the Upanishad uses a word called Atha. Atha means the one who is fully prepared for this knowledge, the one who is fully prepared. Now, Ashvalayana, being a Rishi himself, a Rigveda Rishi himself, definitely has to be fully prepared for this knowledge, isn't it? He can't be a person who goes to Parameshti Brahma for this knowledge without being prepared for it. So, what is the meaning of Atha? Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti Anantaram. After the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, that means what? After having enough preparation of the intellect to receive this knowledge, he goes. And the Upanishad, the commentators, whoever writes the commentary on the Upanishad, say that a student, a shishya, who is of the stature or the status of a Rigveda guru, does he not know this Brahma Jnanam? What is the purpose of such an exalted Shishya going to Lord Brahma for this knowledge? Probably this Rishi wanted to confirm that whatever he knows is the right thing, or he might have wanted to see if there is something else that has to be understood by him, if there is something else that needs to be understood by him. Possibly that is the reason he would have gone. As I gave so many examples in the previous session of very famous rishis, Lord Indra himself, rishis like Narada Rishi. There are instances where these exalted people, these people who are scholars in their own right, have gone for this knowledge to a certain guru. So there is nothing wrong here. In our Upanishads, there is no question of ego like this. Even a rishi can go for this knowledge to a guru and assume the status of a shishya for the time being and ask for this knowledge. And he asked for this knowledge. And what kind of a question? That is the pariprashnena sevaya. What kind of a prashna he asked? A relevant question. What is a relevant question? Specifically indicating for what purpose he has come. He has come for a particular purpose. With respect to Atma Jnanam or Brahma Jnanam, he has come with that particular, interest in knowing what this Brahma Jnanam is. He has come with that particular request and interest, and therefore, straight away, without wasting any time, the Shishya asks this question. And he puts this question directly that, Hey Bhagavan, always when a Shishya addresses the Guru, he always addresses the Guru as Bhagavan. Hey Bhagavan, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara. The Shishya always sees in his Guru Ishvara himself. The Shishya always sees that Ishvara itself, himself or herself, has come in this particular form, in the form of his Guru. Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Hey Guru Murti, who is none other than that Dakshinamurti, my pranams to you. That's what the Dakshinamurti Stotram also says. My Guru, who is none other than Lord Sadashiva Dakshinamurti himself. So how does he address? Hey Bhagavan, Brahma Vidyam Varishta Madhihi. Hey Bhagavan, hey Guru, this Brahma Vidya, which is the most exalted of all the Vidyas, this is the knowledge that surpasses all the knowledge, all other knowledge. Please give me that knowledge. Now, what do you mean by all knowledge? You may say that knowledge is one, understanding it is okay. Is there any kind of a superiority in various streams of knowledge? No, there are Laukika Vidyas and Vaidika Vidyas, Veda Vidyas. Laukika Vidyas are whatever we are learning, every day in our schools and colleges and arts and whatever Vidya we are learning. There also we need a Guru. We also consider that Guru equivalent to God, and then we approach the Guru in a proper way, respect that Guru, and learn whatever Laukika Vidya we have to learn. Similarly, here, this Vidya, Brahma Vidya, is called as Varishta Vidya because it is the most exalted and the highest form of knowledge. All the other Vidyas, including the Vidya or the knowledge that I get from Karma Kanda or Veda Purva, is limited. All the Laukika Vidyas, all the Karma Kanda or Veda Purva Vidyas that I learn in the form of karmas and upasanas, that's also a Vidya. Karma and Upasana, which is taught in the Veda Purva, is also a Vidya. So Upasana is many times called as Vidya. But then these Vidyas, whether it's Laukika Vidyas or Karma Upasana Vidyas taught in the Veda Purva, all of them are limited. Limited in the sense that one cannot know everything that is there. The more one knows, the more small we feel. We realize that the more we know, we realize that there is so much more to know and that we don't know anything. And it doesn't end anywhere. No physics scholar can say that I know everything in physics. No, it's not possible. No dance guru can say that I know everything about dance. It's not possible. Whereas this Vidya, that is Brahma Vidya, is that which is a complete Vidya. Why? Because it does not get rid of a specific ignorance of a specific branch of knowledge. But this Brahma Vidya gets rid of that ignorance, which is called as the Mula Avidya, the very root, the very avidya or the ignorance, which is the very root of our samsara. That is a very, very important or the very cause of our bondage, the very cause of our samsara. That is the ignorance, what we call as Mula Avidya. And it is only Atmajnanam or Brahmajnanam that can get rid of the Mula Avidya. All the other branches are getting rid of Tula Avidya. Tula means what? Specific ignorance of specific things. I am ignorant about English language. English language guru teaches me that particular Vidya to some extent. So that Tula Avidya, specific ignorance about a specific branch of knowledge, is removed by any of these Laukika Vidyas or even the Karma and Upasana Vidyas that are given by the Veda Purva. And therefore, any branch of knowledge which deals with the Tula Avidya is anityam, and that is also always incomplete. It will never give me the fulfillment, whatever may be my scholarliness. It never gives me the fulfillment that I know. It never releases me from this bondage of samsara. Samsara of bondage is what? Limitation, a sense of limitation. Raga, shoka, moha, coming back again and again into the cycles of birth and death. All this is samsara. And what does this Atmajnanam do? This Atmajnanam or Brahma Vidya, which is the very core teaching of Vedanta or the Upanishads, which has to be given by a sampradaya with guru, a sampradaya with guru, a guru who has got this knowledge from his guru through a pravahika, the flowing knowledge from one generation of guru to the shishya, then that shishya becomes the guru, spreads it to the next generation. So this vidya, which is a constant flow, Brahma Vidya, has been coming from Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyama. that which has started from very Sadashiva in the form of Dakshinamurti, which is coming down as a flow of knowledge through different generations of Guru Shishya Parampara in a particular Sampradaya. Sampradaya means what? The correct way of teaching. That is what is called as Sampradaya. A particular way, a traditional way of giving this Vidya. Sampradaya. Even in our own system, like arts, like music, dance, etc., that is a Sampradaya. Every Guru follows that particular Sampradaya. So what about Atma Vidya? Brahma Vidya has that particular Sampradaya where how to communicate this Vidya, how to communicate about this Brahman which is not available for any other Pramana. Brahman or Atma which is not available for any other Pramana, any other means of knowledge. Vedanta is the only means of knowledge, and that has to be conveyed properly. And it's only a sampradaya with Guru who can convey, communicate this knowledge in a proper way. And therefore, always a moksha purusharthi shishya approaches a sampradaya with Guru. So he went and Brahma Vidyam Varishtam Adhihi. Please teach me. Please give me this Brahma Vidya, which is the highest of all the knowledge. Sada Sadbihi Sevyamanam Nigudham. This is a secret knowledge which is not available for any other means. You may say nowadays books are available. I am a scholar in the language. I can easily understand. I can study by myself. No, it's not possible. Because the Upanishadic teaching is so cryptic that just reading the books and trying to understand, the interpretation of somebody, that is not going to help. It has to be got through the Shravanam or the listening to a Sampradaya with Guru. And what kind of a teaching it is? Nigudham Vidyam Adhihi. This Vidya is Nigudha. Nigudha means what? That which is absolutely a secret. Even it is open to me, I cannot understand it. Unless somebody tells me, unless somebody gives it to me in a proper manner. Even if I simply read it or go through it and listen to a Guru without preparation, I cannot understand it. Therefore, it is a secret which has to be given in a certain way. And this is what is being committed to by all the moksha purusharthis. Sadbihi sevyamana means all the sat purushas, those who have made the purushartha nishchaya of moksha. They are called as sat purushas. Sadbihi sevyamanam nigudham varishtam brahmavidya madhihi. So many adjectives to brahmavidya. And then yaya achirat sarva papam vyapohya parat param purusham yati vidvan. I'm repeating it again. I know I have done it in the last session, but I'm repeating it again because this is a small Upanishad. There's no need for us to hurry and do 5-6 verses every time. It is better we understand properly what is being said in this beautiful Upanishad. And this our Rishi Ashvalayana even says that I know, after all, he is a Rigveda Guru, Acharya. It is a Nigudha Vidya, and those people who get this in no time, Achirat, very soon, they attain moksha. This Vidwan, the one who has understood this Jnani, who understands this Brahma Vidya, who abides in Brahman, ultimately Parat Param Purusham Yati, attains that Brahman. Brahmavidaha Brahmaiva Bhavati. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. Where did we see that? In Mundakopanishad. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. It's not a question of becoming. I am Brahman. There's no need of becoming Brahman. Brahman is, I am that Brahman. There's no need for me to go somewhere and get that Brahman. Brahman or moksha is not something to be reached, something to be achieved, something to be got. Then what is the meaning of moksha? Understanding that I am ever the moksha mukta swarupa Brahma Atma Asmi. I am the ever free mukta Brahma Atma Asmi. Aham Brahmasmi iti, abiding in this knowledge. Being absolutely comfortable with this knowledge. This is what is called as moksha. There's nothing to get. There's nothing to go after. It's only a question of understanding. There's nothing to do. It is a question of understanding that Brahman or Atma about which the Upanishad is talking, which is Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Sarvagataha, Nirvikari, Nirguna, that Atma Ahameva Asmi. That Brahman Ahameva Asmi. But why am I so miserable now? Because I am not aware of it. I do not know it. Though I am that, I do not know it. Therefore, what is the purpose of the Upanishads? To remove my ignorance and see for myself that I am that Brahman. Remove the mistaken notion about who I am and ultimately make me see myself, understand myself as nothing but that Brahman. So, hey Bhagavan, give me that Vidya which is the most exalted Vidya, the Paramarthika Vidya, the Paramarthika Satyam, by knowing which one transcends this samsara of becoming, samsara of wanting, samsara of raga, shoka, moha, samsara of coming back again and again and again into this cycle of births and deaths. That is a question that is asked. Now, immediately, without wasting any time, Lord Brahma gives the answer. And see how cryptically he gives this answer. How cryptic the answer is. He says, Tasmai sahovacha pitamahascha Shraddha Bhakti Dhyana Yogadavaihi. So, the second verse, this is the second verse, he says, Tasmai sahovacha pitamahascha. Who is Brahmaji or Chaturmukha Brahma? He is also called as Pitamaha. Pitamaha. Brahma also is called as Pitamaha. Pitamaha cha uvacha. Ha means verily, verily, definitely. What did he say? Lord Brahma uvacha. To whom? Tasmai. To Ashvalayana. To Ashvalayana, Pitamaha said. Verily, he said. That means what? He gave the immediate, adequate answer to the Shishya's question. And what is his answer? Shraddha Bhakti Dhyana Yoga Davaihi. What is this now? Shraddha Bhakti Dhyana Yogat Avaihi. You will get this knowledge by Shraddha, Bhakti, and Yoga. Now, how do you interpret this? This is an Upanishad. And the Guru is saying, commit yourself to Shraddha, Bhakti, and Yoga. Shraddha, Bhakti, Yogad Avaihi. He says. So now, what is our regular understanding of Shraddha? Shraddha means trust in the Guru and Shastra Vachanam. Okay, that is a Shraddha. Ishvara, in Shraddha in Ishvara, Shraddha in Guru. Fine. We all have Shraddha in Ishvara. We all have Shraddha in the Guru. Fine, that is there. Bhakti, love for the teacher, love for this knowledge, love for Ishvara, surrender to Ishvara, worshipfulness, worshipping Ishvara, Bhakti. Dhyana. Dhyana can be interpreted in many ways. Sitting in meditation is dhyana. Nididhyasanam is dhyana. In Yoga Sutras also the word dhyana comes. Concentration, concentrating, and that is also called as dhyana. So what is the lakshartha of this particular sentence? Can you see, can you just take the vachartha of Shraddha, Bhakti, Yoga, Davaihi? You will know this, Brahman. This particular knowledge, the Varishta Brahma Vidya, is got through Shraddha, Bhakti, Yogat, Avaihi. These three give you that. Now, how do we understand it? We have to understand it in a very clear way. Here, two things are meant by that. There are two things. First thing, the basic thing we will understand first, which is meant for people like us, which is meant for ajnanis like us. Okay? Then we'll see why that first meaning does not apply to our Ashvalayana Rishi. So here, Shraddha stands for Karma Yoga. Shraddha. Having that Shraddha in Ishvara, seeing Ishvara as the Karma Phaladhata, to reduce my ragadveshas, to reduce the malas in my intellect, in buddhi, for the sake of sattva shuddhi or chitta shuddhi, I do all the karmas, laukika as well as vaidika karmas, nitya naimitika karmas, everything, with an attitude of karma yoga. Offering all my karmas to Ishvara, so I am not attached to the karma as I have done it. This is my karma. If I don't do it, nobody else will do it. Because I have done it, it has come out well. Because I have done this, it should be the correct one, the way I have done it. All this means what? Attachment to the very karma itself. When I offer all that I do, my karma, any action that I do, it may be upasana, it may be whatever it is, whatever I do, any karma that I do, Vaidika karma, samyagna, yaga, worship, whatever I do, kaika, whatever karma I do, I offer it to Ishvara and accept whatever comes as Ishvara prasada. Ishvararpana buddhya karma, Ishvara prasada buddhya karma phala svikriti. This is karma yoga. And why should one do karma yoga? For chitta shuddhi. There are lots and lots of obstacles. There are lots and lots of malas, impurities in our intellect. And that can be corrected, that can be diluted only by following karma yoga, where you are neither attached to the karma nor to the karma phala. And everything is accepted as Ishvara prasada. So I'm almost something like sanctifying all my actions. I'm involving Ishvara in all my actions. With this, what happens? There is Chitta Shuddhi. So here, Shraddha means Karma Yogena Chitta Shuddhi. Because straight away I cannot go to Jnanam. Straight away I come to the Upanishad, I will not understand anything. Even if the Guru is one of the best Gurus, if I am not prepared for it, then there is no way that knowledge can make any impact on me. So Shraddha, Bhakti, Upasana, Upasana Yogena Chitta Naishchalya. Upasana either in the form of Ekarupa Ishvara Bhakti, where I see that Ishvara in the form of my Ishta Devata and do whatever has to be done in the form of the worship. Upasana Yogena Chitta Naishchalyam. The capacity to focus my mind. After Chitta Shuddhi, the mind should be able to be focused, concentrated on whatever the teaching is to be, because it's a very subtle subject. It is talking about me, the very subject itself. Brahman is not an object of perception. Brahman is the very subject, me. And any Vidya that talks about me, the very subject, that's the subtlest of all the knowledge. That's why it is Varishta, because of that subtlest of all knowledge. All other knowledge, maybe there is something which we can see outside, something which we can perceive. Whereas here it is something which cannot be perceived as an object. It's the most subtle Vidya for which I need my intellect to be very, very pinpointedly focused, concentrated, and my intellect should be expanded enough to know about that subtle, all-pervading Atma. Therefore, bhakti means upasana yoga. Then dhyanam with chitta shuddhi by karma yoga, chitta naischalyam by upasana yoga. I have made my intellect jnana yogya. I become a jnana yogya. I have the jnana yogyata to go to the jnana yoga. So dhyana here means jnana yoga. Karma yoga, upasana yoga, jnana yoga. In that kramat, you go through that, then you get this knowledge. This is what is the first meaning meant for people like us. If we go to some guru, to any Vedanta guru and ask, if I go and ask, Hey Bhagavan, Adihi Bhagavan, Brahma Vidyam Varishtam. So what will the guru say? Shraddha Bhakti Yoga, Shraddha Bhakti Dhyana Yoga Davahi. Hey Shishya, may you go through in the proper order or manner Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Then you will come to this, you will understand this. Now, is this particular meaning appropriate here? Is this appropriate here? You have to think of that. No, it is not appropriate here. Why? Because the Shishya who has gone to Parameshti Brahma is already a very well yogya Shishya. Because he is a rishi himself. He's a rishi himself. Something like our Sanat Kumaras, who are themselves rishis, they go to Lord Dakshinamurti for this knowledge. And that's what we have seen in Dakshinamurti Stotram. So what does Dakshinamurti do? He doesn't have to do anything, straight away give this knowledge. And it is said he just gave that knowledge with the Chinmudra. Maunam Vyakhyanam. Of course, it has a meaning, different meaning, which I have already discussed in Dakshinamurti Stotram. But here, this is a Rishi, Ashvalayana Rishi, a Rigveda Rishi who's going to Lord Brahma and asking for this knowledge. Will Lord Brahma tell him, you please go back, do Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, and then come for Jnana Yoga to me, I will teach you. Will he say that? No. So what is the meaning of this? The meaning of this is Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana Yoga. It means all the three belong to Jnana Yoga itself. And he says here Shraddha means Shravanam. Guru Mukhena Shastra Shravanam. The Shastra which talks about Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. This particular truth, Vedanta, is talked about by a guru directly to the Shishya. Vedanta Shravanam here is called Shraddha. With Shraddha in the Shastra, with Shraddha in the Guru as the very manifestation of Ishvara, I listen Shravanam. How many times? As many times as it is needed. Consistent listening. I have to listen consistently, again and again and again, for a long period of time. Why? Maybe for Ashvalayana it is not necessary. Ashvalayana needs maybe once Okay, Tattvamasi once probably is enough for Ashvalayana to understand. But then when we talk about Shravanam, basically when I have to do Shravanam and we all have to do Shravanam, it has to be consistent. It has to go on for a considerable period of time, for a long period of time, with commitment. That is what is called as Shraddha, Shravanam, Bhakti, going over the list, the Shravanam that has been done, the knowledge that has been gathered through Shravanam. I have to go through it again and again and again. How? I have to remove all the doubts that I have, vikalpas that I have. There are vikalpas. Vikalpas means what? Doubts. Because when Upanishads are being taught, there are so many places where I may see contradictions from one Upanishad to the other. Of course, that we'll know the contradictions only if we are consistent. We have been consistently listening, remembering, revising whatever we have learned for so many years. Then only we'll see the contradictions. Otherwise, we won't see. We won't even know that there is, see, that Upanishad said like this Upanishad is saying like this. So, how do I understand it? For that to happen, I should have done enough number of years of Shravanam. So, this bhakti means here the process of mananam. Mananam in which, by repeated thinking over what I have heard, repeated thinking over what I have heard, what do? I make the knowledge doubt free. Samshaya rahita jnanam. Vikalpa rahita jnanam. That is what is called as bhakti here. Shraddha means Shravanam, Bhakti means Mananam, Dhyana means Nididhyasanam. That is why Bhagwan Krishna called Nididhyasanam as Dhyana Yoga, the 6th chapter. Nididhyasanam. Contemplating upon what I have heard from my Guru. Constantly contemplating. I am not the body, I am the consciousness behind this body. I am that consciousness because of which this body is functioning. I am not the body. I am not the sense organs, but I am the consciousness behind every sense organs, the Samanya Chaitanyam behind all the Vishesha sense organs, because of which the sense organs are functioning. Contemplation all the time. I am very unhappy today. I contemplate. No, I am the Sukha Swarupa Atma. I am the Ananda Swarupa Atma. This kind of an unhappiness is only in the Anatma mind. I am not unhappy. I am aware of this unhappiness which is in the mind. Therefore, I am Sukha Dukkha Atita Atma Ahamasmi. I am neither the happy Atma, I am the Purnatva Swarupa Atma. When I feel limited, I have to contemplate upon the fact that I am the limitless Ananta Purnatva Swarupa Atma. This is what is called as Nididhyasana. That I contemplate upon whatever truths, facts that have been told in Vedanta, I have heard, and I have made this knowledge doubtless by Mananam. So Shraddha means Shravanam, Bhakti means Mananam, Dhyana means Nididhyasana. So what Bhagwan Brahma, Parameshti, Pitamaha Brahma, what is he saying? Hey Shishya, I will give you this knowledge which you have to know by listening to me, Shravanam. Constantly dwell upon that knowledge to make it doubt-free, vikalparahita, samshayarahita jnanam, and constantly contemplate upon the truth that is given by the Shastra. Nididhyasanam. Okay? So ultimately, what is he saying? That the very means of this knowledge, Brahma is here, Lord Brahma is here telling him the means of this knowledge. For an ignorant person like me, I have to go through the 3 steps of Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. But for a person who is already a Jnana Yogya has to go through this process of Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. This is the introduction in which he says, yes, to give you this knowledge, you have asked me to give this knowledge, but hey, Ashwalayana, this knowledge is to be got, Brahmavidya, by a process of Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. So, Jnana Yogat Yeva Kaivalyam. Jnanattu Yeva Kaivalyam. Not by anything else. No amount of doing is going to give you Kaivalyam or Moksha. I already said Kaivalya Upanishad means Kaivalya means Kevalasya Bhavaha. That means a person who is able to see the oneness of everything. And that oneness being the Atma or Brahman, that very consciousness which is none other than me. So Moksha is also called as Kaivalyam. So, hey Ashwalayana Rishi, that Kaivalyam or that particular, Paratparam Yati Vidvan only by Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. There is no other shortcut to this. There is no other shortcut to this. Moksha is a matter of knowing, not doing. Karma yoga is a matter of doing. Upasana is a matter of doing. Jnana yoga, that is Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, Jnana yoga is knowing. Knowing what? I am not what I think I am. I am something else. And what is that something else? That is what is told to me by the Upanishads. And I have to know it. I have to know it. So ultimately, Moksha, Kaivalyam is a matter of knowing and it's not a matter of doing. And that is going to be told in the next verse, in the third verse. And Brahma, Pitamaha Brahma, is going to talk about it. And he says, Hey Ashwalayana, Jnanattu eva Kaivalyam. Karma and Upasana are only stepping stones. Karma and Upasana are only going to help you to prepare your intellect for this knowledge. But Karma and Upasana are not the main cause for moksha. They are Sahakari Karanani. Sahakari Karana means what? They are the auxiliaries or they are the helping Karanas. But Mukhya Karanam for Jnanam is Jnanam Yeva. And that Jnanam is got through Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasana. But does it mean that the Karma and Upasana have no role? No, they have. Karma done with the attitude of Karma Yoga. Upasana done with the attitude of Yoga. That is offering it, considering everything as Ishvara. That kind of an attitude of Karma and Upasana is only going to help me towards the final step of Jnanam. Therefore, Karma and Upasana done with the attitude of Karma Yoga are Sahakari Karanani, not the Mukhya Karanam. Sahakari Karanani. That means they are helpful, they are absolutely necessary. Whereas what is the Mukhya Karanam? Pushkala Karanam we call it, or the main cause, Pushkala Karanam or Mukhya Karanam is what? Jnanam. What Jnanam? Atma Jnanam, Brahma Jnanam. Where do I get it? Only in the Shastra, in Vedanta. How do I get it? Guru Mukhena Shastra Shravanam. And to remove all my obstacles, vikalpas and samshayas, to make this Jnanam samshaya rahitam, mananam, and constant contemplation on that knowledge, to abide in this knowledge. It is said that Those who are absolutely well prepared for this knowledge, Shravana Matrena, it is possible. When the Guru says Tattvamasi, it is possible to get this knowledge. Even Mananam Nididhyasanam is not necessary for a absolutely pakva, the one who is absolutely well prepared for this knowledge. So it is said that karma and upasana are sahakari karanani. Jnanam or jnana yoga is nothing but karma yoga, upasana yoga, sahakari karanani. Jnana yoga eva pushkala karanam for moksha. Jnanattu eva kaivalyam. Jnanattu eva moksha. That is what is told. Now in the third verse, Bhagwan Pitamaha Brahma wants to stress on this point that no amount of karma, money, or status, position, upasana, and any of your scholarliness, nothing is going to help you. They are all only sahakari karanani iti, to make it very clear to Ashvalayana Rishi. He talks about the third verse. Remember one thing, Ashvalayana Rishi, maybe he is a very exalted Shishya, but through that Rishi, keeping that Rishi as the Shishya, the Upanishad is talking to us. So the Upanishad has to come down to our level. Okay? Ashvalayana Rishi knows karma does not lead to moksha, upasana does not lead to moksha, it only prepares me. Ashvalayana Rishi knows. But then this Upanishad is meant for us. Therefore, though the Shishya is an exalted Shishya, the knowledge that is given is actually through this Shishya it is given to us. Just like Lord Krishna has Arjuna in the form of an instrument through which all of us are addressed. Similarly, the Guru Shishya Samvada in any Upanishad, however exalted the Shishya may be, the Guru may be, it is meant for us ultimately, for the moksharthis, for the moksha purusharthis, and therefore, right from the beginning, it has to be explained. So now, here in the third verse, Pitamaha Brahma wants to say that no amount of any kind of a karma, money, and having children who are able to carry on with your work later, nothing is going to give rise to any, the final result of jnanam. They are only stepping stones. So here he says the limitations of karma and upasana in the form of karma yoga and upasana yoga. So न कर्मणा न प्रजया धनेन त्यागेनैके अमृतत्वमानशुः परेण नाकं निहितं गुहायां विभ्राजते यद्यतयो विशन्ति. This is actually a mantra, which is this mantra and the next mantra, the third and the fourth, are chanted, saswarataya chanted when a rishi or a yati or a spiritual leader or a swami is, welcomed with Purna Kumbha. When Purna Kumbha, with Purna Kumbha, we receive an exalted guru or a swami or like that, any spiritual head, we always chant Purna Kumbha, with which this is chanted. Na karmana, na prajaya, na dhanena, त्यागेन ऐके अमृतत्व मानशुः परेण नाकं निहितं गुहायां विभ्राजते यद्यतयो विशन्ति. Then the next one comes, another part is there, which is coming in the next verse also. So what does he say? Na karmana. Okay, no karma, however exalted your karma may be, can lead you to moksha. No karma. That means what? Even when you do karma with karma yoga attitude, it will only give you chitta shuddhi. It will not directly give you moksha. It will indirectly lead you towards moksha. Karma yoga and upasana are indirect means sahakari karanani for moksha. They are not the direct reason for moksha. So he says here, na karmana, na prajaya. You may have wonderful children, praja, who are useful in doing the Vaidika karmas, who will later on take over from you in doing the Vaidika karmas. They will do all the karmas after your death so that you go peacefully and your trajectory is defined by whatever karmas they do. And you will be handing over all your varnashrama, dharma, karmas to your children and you will be going. So, praja is also a means, it is thought of going to higher lokas. So, what can praja do? Okay, when you're doing, it is said that when one has to do these Vaidika karmas like yaga yajnas, patni should be there, putra should be there, manusha vittam should be there, daivi vittam should be there. So, patni and putra is talked about. Progeny, putra means progeny. The progeny should be there. But what can the progeny do? It can be one of the accessories of your yajna, one of the important accessories present during your yajna. And your progeny, what can they do? They can take over the karma and continue that pravaha of Vaidika tradition, they will continue. And at the time of death, by doing certain Pitru karma, Shraddha karma, etc., after that, they see that you reach to the higher worlds after death. So, putra is also very important. Putra means progeny, but progeny cannot give me directly moksha. So, na karmana, na prajaya, na dhanena, whatever may be the resources that I may have, that is not going to help me to get moksha. It may help me to do good deeds. I can do a lot of dana. I can do a lot of dharmic activities with my resources, money. I can do a lot of yajnas and give a lot of, this danam to all the, ritviks and others and all that. I can feed a lot of people. I can give lot. So my vitta can be utilized for various Vaidika karmas, which will give me punya, no doubt. But the vitta can get me only punya by distributing my wealth, my resources in the right way for the good of or for the loka kalyana. It can get me a lot of punya. Dharma karyas I can do. But even this dharma, which I'm following, doing with whatever resources I have, cannot give me moksha directly. It's only a means. I can probably get, the grace of Ishvara by doing these things. Yes. So, na karmana, na prajaya, na dhanena. Then what? Tyagena. By only vairagyam. What's the meaning of vairagyam? Vairagyam means understanding the limitations of what the material world can give me. Understanding the limitations of what karma and upasana can give me. That is what is called as tyaga. Vairagyam does not mean that I leave everything and go away. Being here, doing what I'm doing, when my mind is not concentrating on what material benefits I can get from the world, but can I use the same world, the people and the objects in such a way that I accrue spiritual punya for my moksha purushartha. This is vairagyam. Seeing the futility, seeing the limitations, seeing the doshas of what karma can get me, what praja or what my progeny can get me. How much can dharma purushartha get me? So, the limitations of dharma, artha, kama, purushas, I clearly understand. That is vairagya. It does not mean that I don't do any of these things. If it is necessary for my varna and ashrama status, I do them. But I do them with the fullest understanding that whatever comes is limited. These things are not going to get me that final release from this samsara. So understanding the limitations, understanding the doshas, understanding the anityatvam of dharma, artha, kama, purusharthas is here called as tyaga. That's it. Tyaga means not giving up something. Tyaga means understanding the limitations of the material world around me, how much it can give me, what I can get from that. Even dharma, doing all whatever my resources can permit. Maximum I can go to Swargaloka, maximum Brahmaloka. I have to come back again. There is a limitation there also. So, understanding the limitations of dharma, artha, kama, and committing myself to the moksha purushartha here is called as tyaga. Tyagena yeke amritatva manushuhu. An occasional one, yeke, one rare individual. Like, Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye. Here yeke means kaschid, one very, very rare person who doesn't get caught in the dharma, artha, kama, purusharthas forever, understands that there is a limitation to this. What we saw in Mundakopanishad, Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmanaha nirvedamaya. This nirveda or this vairagya is what is called as tyaga here. Pariksha lokan, seeing the karma phalam that I get from dharma, artha, kama, purusharthas, the limitations of them, and then I get a kind of a nirveda. Nirveda means what? I understand the reality and the value of these things, and automatically the desire for them drops off from me, drops away from me. This is what is called as tyaga. Vairagyaha is tyagaha. Nirvedaha, nirvedamayat, brahmanaha. This brahmana or the one who has done this, understood this, who is committed to moksha purushartha because he sees the limitations. This is tyaga. Yeke, very rarely a rare person, amritatva manashuhu, who becomes a moksha purusharthi, seeing the limitations of dharma, artha, kama, purusharthas. He amritatvam anashuhu. Only by this, a very rare person who gets committed to atmajnanam gets this amritatvam, the one who wants this amritatvam. Amritatvam means what? Knowing that I have never been mortal, I have always been this immortal Atma. And what is that? Parena nakam nihitam guhayam vibhrajate yadyatayo vishanti. Here he says that you don't have to look for that moksha anywhere, go anywhere and look for it somewhere far away. Guhayam vibhrajate nihitam guhayam. That very Brahman or Atman or moksha which you're looking for is there, shining in the form of Ahamasmi, Ahamasmi iti. It is available here in your Hridaya Guha. This is what the yatis, these moksha purusharthis or jnanis understand. I think we are running short of time, and I'm taking this Upanishad in a very relaxed manner because it's a beautiful Upanishad to understand. Om Nandantu Sadhaka Sarve Vinashyantu Vidushakaha Avastha Shambhavi Mestu Prasannostu Guru Sada Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkham Apnuyat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.